Greetings, good morning, and welcome to Mind the Moment. Thank you all for joining us here in our coffee house in the cloud, place for us to come together, build community, get centered, and poke around the corners of this present moment. It is June 19th, 2020, also known as Juneteenth, a state holiday or day of observance in 49 of our 50 states. Juneteenth is the anniversary of the day in 1865 when the Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and affirmed that all the people who had been enslaved therein were free. As Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. writes, in one of the most inspiring grassroots efforts of the post-Civil War period, and in defiance of confusion and delay, terror and violence, the Black men and women of Texas transformed June 19th into their own annual rite, Juneteenth, beginning in 1866. So the Juneteenth Declaration came over 2 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, representing another deferment of equality overshadowing American history. As Coretta Scott King has suggested, struggle is a never-ending process. Freedom is never really won. You win it in every generation. I am John Roberts from Harvard Pilgrim Health Care's mindfulness program, and I'm so glad to be minding the moment this morning for the first, although I sincerely hope not the last time, with Kell Julliard, Director of Clinical Research at NYU Langone Health, where he has spearheaded a transformative mindfulness program for clinicians. He is also a senior facilitator for the Turgar meditation community. Good morning, Kell. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, John. Thanks for inviting me. It's wonderful to be here with everybody.
So in just one moment, I will hand things over to Kell to lead us in a 10-minute guided meditation, after which we'll dive into some Q&A, and then we'll wrap things up just before 9 a.m. Now, at the bottom of your screen, you will find an option to open up a chat box. Please share with us any questions or comments you might have at any time. We'd love to hear about what's on your mind. Kell, is there anything that you would like to ask the folks at home to comment on as we're getting started?
Sure, John, thanks. Well, today we're going to be doing a meditation related to equanimity. And equanimity is all about gracefully riding the ups and downs of life. So if you'd like to comment or share an experience in the chat box of what are some of the ups and downs that you've experienced over this rather tumultuous time, we'd be happy to receive those.
All right, so it looks like we have a nice group of people practicing with us this morning. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us, taking the time to be with each other. Please keep in mind that only Kell and I will be able to see what you type. And if we don't read your question or comment out loud, please know that we do read and value them all. Before we close, I will point out some other ways that you can keep in touch with us as well. So I think I actually might allow, because there is a little meat to that ask. So I'm going to allow folks to, continue typing as we get into the guided meditation. Then we'll maybe refer back to those things afterwards. So Kell, I'm going to turn it over to you to get us started, if you don't mind.
So I'm seeing chats come in. And it's really great to read what's being written. The first one was said the word overweight, and I know a lot of us in this time of isolation have been eating more than usual and putting on weight. So I could definitely relate to that one. Infertility versus enjoying silence, losing a job and then getting reinstated. And different ups and downs every day, caregiving responsibilities for spouses and children, along with working full-time. I'm sure there are both joys and tremendous stresses in there. And then dealing with our own personal anxieties, which can be about many, many different things. I know for myself, there's been a sort of I discovered I liked working at home, which I didn't think I would. So that's been a really positive thing. But then missing the casual contacts with colleagues that are really actually quite meaningful. So let's see. Yes, more about working from home. especially raising toddlers who are very active. The terrible twos might be, I'm sure, a lot of joy and challenge in that. So let's move into our meditation for today. Those are wonderful things to sort of bring alive all the many ups and downs that so many of us are going through right now. So equanimity, the words, when I teach this in workshops, the words that participants come up with, there are two of them that are particularly frequently mentioned and I think really resonant. One is balance, that we move through life with a sense of balance as opposed to wobbling back and forth. And then the other is acceptance. And ups and downs are just a part of life for everybody. We're all going to be going through ups and downs all the time. And sometimes in very rapid succession and sometimes both at once. So this is something that happens to everybody. So an attitude of acceptance is really important when it comes to equanimity, along with balance. I do want to say something about 4 qualities, speaking of balance, that are very important in the tradition that I've mostly been taught in. John mentioned that I'm a facilitator for the Tergar meditation community. I teach the 3 levels of the Joy of Living program around the Northeast. And in the second level, we talk about these 4 qualities that really help keep each other in balance. The first one is loving kindness, which is really about the wish for ourselves and others to be happy. So this is kind of a doing thing where we're achieving goals and having and acting in a way that will bring us happiness, fulfillment, success. The second quality is compassion, which is the wish to alleviate our own and others' suffering. Again, an active quality. The third is joy, which is actually more of a being quality. It's more like rejoicing in our own and others' good fortune, as well as in the goodness that's within all of us. Each of us has goodness inside, and rejoicing in that. And then the last one is equanimity. And I think of equanimity kind of like the outrigger on an outrigger canoe. The other qualities are like the canoe and the paddle, and we're moving through this ups and downs of the ocean of life. But it's that outrigger that keeps us from capsizing, from turning over, from getting lost in the waves. So equanimity is really important as we go through these ups and downs, this constant wave motion of our lives. So John, before we go into the meditation, I wonder if there's anything you want to add about that or
that's great. No, I mean, I think after we do it, I maybe we can generate some questions from the folks at home, and I have a few of my own. But no, I think it's great if we can just move right in.
Okay. All right. So find a posture that is comfortable, well grounded. The 3 suggestions are sitting with an upright, relaxed spine, standing with a similar attitude, or lying down. As long as our spine is straight, the energy moves well, our breath flows freely, and they're postures that help support alertness. So finding that relaxed, dignified, upright, well-grounded place. Now, part of equanimity and part of meditation practice is making choices that really support us in being in a window of comfort for ourselves. So you might check in to see, does it feel better to have your eyes open or closed? If open, softly focus down, or if you're drowsy, maybe even elevating the eyes. So this will be different for each of us as to what brings us into this place of feeling centered, grounded, and present. To just let the mind rest in that place. To recognize, oh, I'm aware in this moment I'm alive. I'm present. Thoughts and feelings and sensations can come and go. We're just aware of this big space of awareness in which our lives unfold. Awareness is the miracle of life we often don't recognize. And this is an opportunity to celebrate that miracle, whether it's a sensation, a thought, a feeling. It exists in the space of awareness. Now I'm in Brooklyn, which is a fairly noisy place, so we may have some sound meditation floating in from the background now and then during this time. And if that happens, just know you're hearing the sound, and that still keeps awareness as the star, and you keep meditating even though your focus of awareness shifts. So let's move in to our meditation on equanimity and just recognize that in our hearts we have this wish to be happy, to be free from suffering. And part of that is moving through life with balance and with grace, whatever ups and downs may arise. And we can wish this for ourselves. So I'm going to encourage you to find a way to wish that you have equanimity. And you might do that with a phrase softly or silently repeated to yourself, finding just the right words for you. May I have equanimity. May I be balanced. May I accept the ups and downs of life that I and others go through. You might try putting a hand on your heart, if that feels right to you, to just create a sense of warmth for yourself. Because we want this wish to come of a place of genuine caring for yourself. May I move through life with equanimity, with balance and acceptance and grace. And if images come to mind of what equanimity might be like for you, or a sense of movement about what that might be, then go with that instead of the phrases. It's whatever sensory evocation of equanimity really speaks to you. May I have equanimity, balance, acceptance. It's important to recognize on this day of Juneteenth that balance and acceptance don't mean giving up our power or becoming a doormat, that actually they enable us to act more skillfully in the world or in relation to ourselves. They actually empower us if we approach them correctly. And now broadening this wish to a friend, a loved one, to any group, or even to all beings, whatever you like, with the wish, may you have equanimity. Whoever we're thinking of, may you move through life with balance and grace, with acceptance and empowerment. May you avoid the extremes of agitation and dissociation or numbness. May you walk through life with balance and aliveness. And now letting go of this focus on equanimity, just letting the mind rest as it is. Mind in the body, body on the chair or cushion, here in the space where you find yourself. Allowing thoughts, emotions, sensations to come and go in this great space of awareness, of being. If your eyes are closed, you might gently open them to transition back. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Kell. That was fantastic. Before we get more deeply into the Q&A, I actually wanted to pick up on this idea of equanimity, which is a very deep concept, yet also a little bit of an abstract one. I'm wondering if maybe you could tease out a moment from your own life or somebody else's life where you were faced with a situation in which you were able to draw on the practice of equanimity in order to get maybe a better outcome than you might have otherwise.
Well, I mean, one of the things about equanimity and those 4 qualities I mentioned are that they're really inherent in mindfulness. So as we begin to practice mindfulness and sort of step back from what the thoughts, emotions, sensations that we're normally just identified with as though they are us, and we step back from them and we see this space of awareness in which they take place, it's not just a blank. It's full of heart, actually, and peace. And those qualities of kindness and compassion and equanimity are actually there. So, I mean, I do this all the time when challenging things arise. And I know the rain practice, which I know Tara has and your teachers have taught many times, where we just become aware of the emotion that we're feeling and how that's manifesting in the body. So whenever I have a challenging emotion arise, because I do this so often, it's a habit for me to just drop into the rain practice and just to feel what's going on. But because there's this space of awareness, I'm able to respond to the situation in a whole different way. And to me, that is equanimity. You know, it brings a balance to things because I'm not locked into whatever the feeling or thought is. I'm hoping that's not still too abstract. If it is, we can continue. But
well, I mean, helpfully, Kell, one of the people watching wrote this just now, and I think this is actually might be clarifying for some folks. You know, during a crucial conversation, this person writes, it's important to have equanimity to help maintain a productive, balanced conversation with the resolution. So I think, yeah, I can definitely see that working in a lot of people's lives as well.
If we look at the word acceptance in that wonderful example, if you don't accept where the other person is as being just the fact, a challenging, you know, if you're trying to change them or thinking of your own agenda the whole time, you can't relate to them skillfully. So I think that's a wonderful comment and a great example.
So I want to make sure that folks who are watching do feel welcome to ask Kell questions. We'd love to hear any questions you might have while waiting for folks to type some in. Kell, you've mentioned this already, that you that you teach this joy of living program. And one of the great things I think about mindfulness in the West is that we have access to many different teaching traditions. You know, even if the spirit of the teachings across those traditions tends to remain pretty consistent. And so I'm wondering, though, if you could sort of tease out any differences that between the joy of living curriculum, if you will, and other types of mindfulness training programs that folks might have some familiarity with.
Well, two things come to mind. The Joy of Living program has three components: calming the mind, which is about basically mindfulness meditation; opening the heart, which relates to the practice we did today and the four qualities that I mentioned earlier; and awakening wisdom, which refers to bringing insight and wisdom that is natural to all of us, and cultivating that, bringing that out into our lives. So the fact that these three components are brought in an interfaith, a non-sectarian way, I think it lays out a whole smorgasbord of techniques and principles that are very useful in negotiating the ups and downs of life. But the second thing I'll say, which has been incredibly transformative for me personally, is that the Joy of Living program focuses on bringing these practices and perspectives into the flow of life. Often we find that when we're on the cushion and doing our formal practice, we can be really calm and it's wonderful. But then when we move out into life, it's all gone. You know, where is it? You know, how do I? And so part of the Joy of Living program is about how do we bring these practices into the flow of life in the moment during these challenging situations. And I'm happy to say the Joy of Living program is now online. It used to be only in person, but we've got it online now. So in a sort of stepwise, multi-week, so you really get a chance to kind of walk through it step by step. So it is a really great thing if people are interested. There's a lot of wonderful training out there now. So it's just one of many options that are available to people.
And I like what you say, Kell, about bringing the practice into the world, because as you well know, the founder of the program is a gentleman named Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche, who's a Tibetan meditation teacher based in India and Nepal with centers all over the world. And he became kind of famous in the last 5 or 10 years for one day just leaving his center and just going on a multi-year walking retreat, which I think is an example of a teacher who is, okay, I'm going to literally go out in the world and see what happens when this practice, or see what this practice can actually do when I'm out there, just opening myself to the world.
I see another question in the chat box for me personally about what drew me to meditation and when did I begin. I really started when I was in high school. I was, reading books on Zen in 8th grade, believe it or not. But I had, a pretty strong depressive and anxiety disorders, and I really wanted to escape. That was really, honestly, to be perfectly frank, what drew me to meditation was I wanted to get out of here. I was not comfortable in my own skin. And, it's been a really long journey for me to using many, many different modalities, a lot of therapy, 12-step programs. But I have to say that meditation and the Joy of Living program in particular has enabled me not to want to get away anymore. I like being in my own skin now, and I really credit meditation with the most powerful way of doing that. Another question, how can we use equanimity in dealing with racial awareness and the issues with race in our world? I think this is so important. As a white man, I have to confront the racism within myself often, and the responses that I have. And the way equanimity works for me is, okay, this is a downer. It's a feeling. There's shame, there's fear, sometimes there's anger around the injustice, but also just the stuff that comes up for me where I see that I've been conditioned also to have racial the racism within me that's just seeped in. So if I have equanimity and recognize that, wow, this is true for really all of us who live in this culture, then it helps me not to despair and not to beat up on myself, but to look at this, to take the long view and to bring gentleness to myself so that I can make progress in the right direction. John, anything to add to that?
Oh no, I think somebody actually I think said it better than I could have, which is thank you for your candor. I've never heard anyone say anything like that. All right, Kell, I hate to be the one who has to sort of bring the conversation to a close because it has been so rich. I'm so grateful for you speaking so much from the heart. But let me just do a little ending housekeeping here and say that we will be back with you every Tuesday and Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find the links to these sessions and other resources at our main site at harvardpilgrim.org/mindfulness. Drop us a line at askmtm@harvardpilgrim.org or leave a comment on our Facebook page. Let us know what's new in your world, what's on your mind. If you have any questions for our experts, we will pass them along. You can also leave a voicemail at my desk number, which is 617-509-7047. You can rewatch this session, older sessions, and introductory sessions featuring my colleague Tara Healy on our YouTube page, and find guided meditations on our SoundCloud page. So, Kell, thank you once again for joining us all the way from Brooklyn. I'm wondering if you would leave us with one resource that you think people might find especially useful as they continue to grow their practice, either at this time in particular or at any time.
I'd be delighted. I want to call people's attention to, maybe, I don't know if this title is reversed. The Mindful Self, it's good. The Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook by Kristen Neff and Chris Germer. It's good for three different kinds of people. Some people have a kind of knee-jerk reaction against self-compassion. It's really great for those people because self-compassion has actually been shown to foster resilience. And it's great for people who kind of have a neutral attitude towards self-compassion. And then it's good for people who really like the idea of self-compassion. So if you fall in one of those categories, it would be a good book for you.
It sounds like it's good for all people. Kell, this being with you this morning, I think has also been good for all people. It's been great for me. I'd like to thank you again for joining us. It's been wonderful.
And there's a question about the title, the Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook. The Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook.
And we'll make sure to post that on our Facebook page as well, in case folks want to pick up on it there. All right. Thank you, Kell. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. We hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, John.
Have a momentous day, folks.